So today I'll just show you 10 more. Today I will show you my Beetlejuice program. My How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying program. My Wicked program. Six, the musical. Hamilton. Roald Dahl's Matilda the musical. The Lion King. The Addams Family. Aladdin. And Meredith Wilson's The Music Man. Those are the 10 programs I plan to show you today. If you saw my part 1 of my Playbill collection, you know that some of my programs have writing on them, and that is because I got in the habit of, after the show, waiting outside the theater for the actors to come out and asking for their autograph. Some of my programs have writing in the front, and for some others, the autographs are inside the program where you can find pictures of the cast. So let's get started with the first one. The first program I want to show you today is my Beetlejuice program. And I thought I would start with Beetlejuice because last time I showed you the program for my most favorite Broadway show I've ever been to. And so today I thought I would show you the program for my second favorite show. So my favorite show that I've ever been to was maybe Happy Ending. But Beetlejuice is a very close second. I saw Beetlejuice near the Halloween season a couple years ago. But I have to say, even if you're not in the Halloween mood, I absolutely believe you would really enjoy the Beetlejuice musical. I am one of those people who loves going to Broadway to see like a show. I want the lights, the sound, the change of costumes, the scenery, the special effects, like a show. And Beetlejuice did not disappoint. So if you're unfamiliar, Beetlejuice is based on a 1988 film called Beetlejuice, and it is the story of a couple who has passed away, who tries to haunt the new inhabitants of their former home. And so what they do is they call for help. They call Beetlejuice for help. And the way he's known to be summoned is by saying his name 3 times. And one of the new residents of the home is a young girl, and her name is Lydia. And he's also dealing with her mom's death and a quite neglectful dad. But even though it sounds kind of a bit morbid, the musical is actually a comedy. So it's really, really funny. So I said this on my part 1 video, but just know that most Broadway playbills are actually just ads. A lot of times ads for other Broadway shows. I believe it's just, something they have to do for the money. But my favorite pages to look at are sort of like the pages in the middle, where they tell you a bit more about the show. So over here we see that Beetlejuice has music and lyrics by Eddie Perfect. What a cool last name, Perfect. And then the book is by Scott Brown and Anthony King. And then this was the cast. Alex Brightman, Elizabeth Teeter, Gary Butler, David Josephsberg, Adam Danheiser, Leslie Rodriguez Kritzer, Michelle Aravena, Kelvin Moonlow. That's a cool last name too, Moon. Sonia Love. Oh, such cool last names. Danny Rodiliano and Donna Steingold. And I have to say I absolutely loved Alex Brightman as Beetlejuice. Like I said, it was a very, very funny show. I really liked all of the songs in the show. I was obsessed with the soundtrack for, like a whole year after I saw the show. Okay, so that was Beetlejuice, which played at the Marquee Theater. Again, really fun show. Highly recommend. Even if it's not Halloween season, you will 100% enjoy the show. Okay, moving on to the second playbill I wanted to show you. If you are curious, the binder where I keep my playbills is an original playbill binder. I got it off the official playbill website. I don't think it's that expensive. I think it was like maybe $35, but it's super convenient and definitely worth it if you wanna keep your playbills or collect them and make sure they're succeed in business without really trying. And this show played at the Hirschfeld Theater. Interesting name. I believe that most of the run on Broadway was with Darren Criss from Glee, but I was lucky enough to be able to see the show when it was playing with Nick Jonas. Now, as any good millennial, I was absolutely obsessed with the Jonas Brothers growing up, and still to this day after they reunited. So I was very excited to see Nick Jonas on Broadway. I was also super lucky because on this specific day when I went to see the show, it just happened to be, I didn't plan it this way, but it just happened to be that that day was the last day Nick Jonas would be performing on the show. And so, as sort of like a thank you to Broadway and to his fans, I guess, Nick Jonas decided to, after the show, come out behind the theater and do basically like an impromptu concert. So I was very, very excited. Of course, after the show, I was waiting outside for the autographs. And so when he came out, not just to sign autographs, but with a stool and guitar, and started singing, people went wild. You could hear everyone fangirling. And so, How to Succeed, we see here music and lyrics are by Frank Lesser, and the book is by Abe Burrows, Jack Weinstock, and Willie Gilbert. This show was directed and choreographed by Rob Ashford. And of course, the main actor was Nick Jonas, but we also had Bo Bridges and Michael Urie, who I was also familiar with. And then some of the other cast was Rose Hemingway, Tammy Blanchard, Rob Bartlett, Sarah Jean Ford, Ellen Harvey, Michael Park, and Anderson Cooper. Oh, I also know who Anderson Cooper is. Now, if you are not familiar with the show, oh my god, look at that. Corbin Bleu from High School Musical. I do not remember Godspell playing on Broadway, or maybe it was not on Broadway, maybe off Broadway. So yeah, if you are not familiar with the show, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying is based on a 1952 book called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and it's by writer Shepard Mead. And in the story, it centers around J. Pierpont Finch, who is like a young guy, and he's very ambitious, and he wants to become successful. And so what he does is he reads this book called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and somehow, with the help of the book, manages to rise up the ranks from being a window washer at a company to becoming chairman of the board and I believe the company was the Worldwide Wicked company. And it was also a musical. I mentioned this in my part 1 video, but I am definitely a musical person more than a play person. I just enjoy a show way better when it has music in it, rather than a play. I've still been to a few plays, but I definitely enjoy musicals way better. So that was Playbill number 2. Moving on to Playbill number 3, which is Wicked. I feel like recently Wicked has risen in popularity because of the Wicked movies with Ariana Grande. And so that's why I chose to show you my Wicked playbill. Now, I am very, very lucky because I got to see Wicked with the director of the show. So the director of the show, his name is Joe Mantello. And when I was in high school here in New York, I was part of a theater scholarship funded by a program called Open Doors. And the scholarship basically paid for a group of, I believe it was maybe 8 to 10 kids per high school. And they would pay for us to go to a Broadway show with a mentor. And the mentor for my high school was Joe Mantello, the director of Wicked. And after the show, he would always take us to a location where we could talk about the show and ask questions, and he would always feed us pizza. So we went with him to see many different shows. I believe it was maybe one every month during that. I think it was my senior year of high school. So we probably saw maybe some 10 to 12 different shows. But going to see Wicked with him was super special because obviously he was the director. So he arranged for us to be able to go backstage and meet some of the cast members who were there. And we got to see the costumes and everything. And it was just very, very fun. So Wicked played at the Gershwin Theater. I apologize beforehand if I completely butcher any of the names of the theaters or the actors. But yeah, this show was very fun to watch, and I actually, because we had the connection of knowing Joe Mantello, I think he arranged it so we could go and see the show whenever we wanted, because I've seen Wicked, I believe maybe some 5 or 6 times. And so right here, there you see him, my mentor, Joe Mantello. And Wicked has music and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz, and the book is by Winnie Holzman. And I don't know why, for some of them I have the autographs in the front, and for others I have it on the inside. I think when I started getting autographs, I thought, oh well, I asked them to autograph, next to their picture. But then later on, I was like, oh, it'd be cooler actually to have the autographs in the front cover, so that when I display them in my binder and I'm flipping through them, I can see which ones are autographed. So over here, I also have some other autographs, and the cast was Willem Dean, Cake, Ali Mosey, Randy Danson, Adam Gruber, Kyle Dean Massey, Catherine Charbois, Tom Flynn, and F. Michael Hine, or I hope that's Hine, and maybe Haney. I was thinking hopefully not Hiney. So yeah, this was like a spectacular show, you know. Like I was saying, I really like shows, the type where you see great costumes and great scenery and special effects and great music and, you know, wonderful like live orchestra. And this one definitely had it all. You're probably familiar, but in case you're not, the story in the musical is basically told from the perspective of two different witches. So Elphaba, who eventually becomes like the Wicked Witch of the West, and Galinda, who is, supposed to be like Glinda the Good. And the storyline for Wicked, the musical, is supposed to be set before and after Dorothy arrives in Oz. And it's sort of cool to see like the prequel at the beginning of when Elphaba and Galinda are sort of friends, and even though they have like very different personalities, and how eventually they, because they have such different viewpoints on, I guess, the politics in Oz, then they end up parting ways. So yeah, this was also I think this is one of the most special shows for me. Every time I think about it, I just think, about all of the shows I got to watch with Joe Mantello and the fact that I got to go backstage, which was really cool. So that was Playbill number 3. Let's move on to Playbill number 4. Now, I think I've mentioned this before, but in case you didn't know, my partner is English, and so we were quite excited to go see Six, the musical, because this is originally a British musical. It was at the West End before coming to Broadway, which, if you didn't know, the West End is sort of like London's Broadway. And so this show played at the Brooks Atkinson Theatre, and I have to say, the cast of this show was absolutely wonderful. Like, they were all incredibly talented. If you are not familiar, Six, the musical, is sort of like a modern retelling of the lives of the 6 wives of Henry VIII. And the way the show it was made was that all of the 6 wives sort of act as a, girl band, and they take turns telling their stories to sort of, like shared all of costumes. The girls, the actresses have the same costume for the whole show. And there's no change of scenery really, I don't think. I don't think there's any like special effects or anything like that. But it's a pretty entertaining and funny show nonetheless. So this show has, let's see, I believe maybe music and lyrics by Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss. And it's directed by Lucy Moss and Jamie Armitage. And this is the cast: Anna Hicks, Andrea Magaseet, Abby Mueller, Brittany Mack, Samantha Pauly, Anna Uceli, Kristen Nicole Hutchins, Nicole Kyung-mi Lambert, Courtney Mack, and Mallory Meadkey. And I have to say my absolute favorite was Brittany Mack. She was so good. She was serving so much attitude and sass during her songs. I was absolutely obsessed with the whole soundtrack of the show, but my favorite song was the one that she sang, where she was telling her story. So, moving on to Playbill number 5. Playbill number 5 is Hamilton. I believe Hamilton has to be one of the most, if not the most popular Broadway show in history. I believe it won so many awards when it came out, and it was sold out for like months. I was so excited that I was able to get so many autographs from the cast. It's also pretty funny because if you didn't know, the storyline for Hamilton is, based on the life of Alexander Hamilton, who is one of the American founding fathers, and, his role in the American Revolution. And of course, during the American Revolution, the US was gaining its independence from England, and again, my partner is English, so it was pretty funny to go with him, because he kept saying, they're obviously they paint British people, not in the best light, and the king, who had so many, issues, but I will say the king was, the funniest character, in the show. He had, some comedic lines as well. So, yeah, this show played at the Richard Rogers Theater. And if you didn't know, this show is also quite famous and popular because it is written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Book, music, and lyrics by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who, if you didn't know, is an incredibly accomplished composer. He has worked on a lot of Disney movies, the new Mufasa and Little Mermaid, and Kanto. I believe he also worked on Moana. So yeah, he's like incredibly talented. And the show was directed by Thomas Gale. I think something that the show is also known for is for having quite a diverse cast, which, you know, though it is not necessarily like historically accurate, it's still pretty cool to have a very diverse cast tell the story. And so for the cast, we see over here Crystal Joy Brown, Miguel Cervantes, Mandy Gonzalez, Tamar Green, Jin Ha, Ewan Morden, Fergie L. Philippe, Kyle Scatliff, Aubin Wise, and Daniel Yearwood. I really enjoyed how not only do you see the role that, you know, certain founding fathers played during the American Revolution, but you also see the role that their wives played, which, you know, they also had an incredibly big impact during revolutionary times. Okay, so that was Playbill number 5. We are halfway now through the playbills I wanted to show you. On to Playbill number 6. Okay. So, Playbill number 6 is Roald Dahl's Matilda, the musical. I remember vividly when I went to see Matilda because it was my birthday. I can't remember which year specifically, but I know this was my mom's birthday present to me many years back, probably some 8, maybe more years ago. And so Matilda played at Sam S. Shepherd Theater. If you didn't know, Matilda is also based on a book. It is based on the 1988 novel Matilda by Roald Dahl. And the story centers around a 5-year-old girl named Matilda Wormwood, who has the gift of telekinesis. So that means she can move objects with her mind. And she loves reading, and she's a really good student, but her family sucks. And so she sort of forms a really close relationship with her teacher, and her teacher ends up adopting her. This is also a British musical. So it started at the West End in London, and then I believe in like 2013 it came to Broadway. So over here we see the book is by Dennis Kelly and music and lyrics by Tim Minchin, director Matthew Warchus. And look at the cast. The cast is so cute because there's a lot of children in this show. So we had Paige Brady, Gabriella Pizzolo, Ripley Sobo, Ava Ulloa, and then we have Kieran Aldridge, Matt Harrington, Leslie Margarita, Jill Pace, and Christopher Sieber. Very cute show to watch. And you know, I've mentioned before, I'm an elementary school teacher, so pretty cool to see a story about an elementary school kiddo relationship she forms with her teacher. So that's Matilda. Okay, moving on to Playbill number 7. Playbill number 7 is The Lion King. I went to see The Lion King with many years ago with my high school boyfriend. I think maybe he gifted me tickets to The Lion King for our anniversary. And this show was playing at the Minskoff Theater. Now, I remember I've always described The Lion King as the type of show that is completely worth it to go see, even just from the first song. I remember being like mesmerized by the costumes that the actors had, because, you know, I'm sure you're familiar, Lion King is a story about animals. So everyone in the cast is dressed up as an animal. But oh my goodness, huge props to the costume designers, because the costumes on Lion King are beautiful. I believe a lot of them were made of wood, and so they just look really cool. You know, like the huge elephants, which took maybe like 5 different actors and puppeteers to like maneuver. And the giraffes, the lions, obviously. They had birds, all types of like jungle animals. And so the music and lyrics are by Elton John and Tim Rice, which, if you didn't know, I think Elton John also worked on the original Disney movie soundtrack for, you know, the Lion King Disney movie. So yeah, this is a show based on the movie The Lion King by Disney, and I believe it was super popular because they hired not only just actors but a lot of like puppeteers to be able to maneuver the costumes that they had in the show. And you're probably familiar, but in case you didn't know, the storyline follows the story of a young lion cub named Simba, who, you know, his uncle kills his dad because he wants to take his role as king of the jungle. And so Simba has to sort of be brave and, you know, take his rightful place as king, you know, regardless of how hard his uncle is trying to take that role. And so this show was directed by Julie Taymor. This show is also pretty funny. It was almost like a comedy. I can't quite remember who were the actors who played Timon and Pumbaa, but you know, if you've seen the movie, you know those two are sort of like hilarious characters, and that was a really big cast. We have Patrick, Alton, Tashidi, Jeff, Ben, Fred, Adam, Shantae, James, Bonita, Enrique, Nia, Judah, Niles, Imani, Sand, Camille, Alvin, Gabriel, and Derek. And I remember exactly who my favorite actress was, and that was Tashidi. I got a picture with her after the show when I was getting my autographs. She opened she sang, you know that like that opening song in The Lion King. I can't remember the name, but I believe it's in, you know, it's not in English. I think it's some maybe African dialect. But her voice was so powerful, incredible talent. It must be crazy to try to be like an actor, an aspiring actor on Broadway, because I can tell you like the talent here is crazy. I remember, actually this is funny, but I remember walking around the city with my husband, you know, again he's English, and he was saying, my goodness, New York is so full of talent. Even like your buskers like on the street or on the subway, like might as well be like on Broadway, might as well have like a record deal, because you know, even like random people singing in the streets are like incredibly talented, and it's true. Okay, on to playbill number, what are we up to? 8, I believe. Okay, playbill number 8 is the Addams Family. Now, similar to Wicked, I feel like the Addams Family has also been super popular lately because of the Wednesday show on Netflix, which I've been watching. It's very entertaining, and I can't quite remember the name of the actress, but she's very popular and super talented too. So, the Addams Family, I remember, okay, the thing I remember about watching this show is that I went to see it like at the peak of winter, and I was freezing. But even though I was freezing out in like -10-degree weather, if I'm not mistaken, I think I still managed to get autographs. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so honestly, kudos to all of those actors, and thanks to all of those actors who were so kind as to take time out of their day to stand in the freezing cold signing autographs. Very kind of them. Nathan Lane, I believe is like super famous as well. I know I've seen him in like plenty of other like comedies, and he's been the voice of like, I believe he like voiced some of the characters on The Lion King, the Disney movie, and I know I've seen him in like roles in like Modern Family and TV shows like that. So the Addams Family play at the Lunfontaine Theater, and these were some of the other actors. Babe, oh, the autograph is there. I can't quite read the name. Babe Newworth, Terrence Mann, Carolee Carmelo, Kevin Chamberlain, Jackie Huffman, Zachary, James Adam Rigler, Wesley Taylor, Crystal Rodriguez, and Merwin Feared. And let's see. I wonder if. Oh, there we go. Book by Marshall Brickman and Ricky Ellis. Music and lyrics by Andrew Lipa. And directed by Philip McDermott and Julian Crouch. So, you know, I think there's been like so many like Addams Family like movies and TV shows, but when the Addams Family musical came out, it had been the first time ever that a musical with the Addams Family characters had been made, and I believe it came to Broadway on 2010. That's when first aired on Broadway in 2010. I think all of like the movies and TV shows sort of follow different storylines, but the storyline for the musical was, the Addams Family is like sort of like a very dark family, and in the show, Wednesday, she like fell in love with like a normal like guy, like a normal human guy. I guess, are they supposed to be human? I don't know. But once they fell in love with like a normal young guy, and she wanted to marry him, and her dad knew and was trying to keep it a secret from mom because Morticia Addams, would like heavily disapprove, and eventually like she ends up finding out at like a family dinner, and it ends up being like super chaotic for everyone. So yeah, it was a pretty funny show, and this was also a musical. Okay, on to Playbill number 9. Playbill number 9 is super thick. I don't know if you can tell the difference, from the camera, but for example, look how thin the Hamilton Playbill is compared to the Aladdin's Playbill. For some reason it feels super heavy and thick. So, the Aladdin musical, I was actually very lucky because I got to see it for free. I heard that, I think it was like Good Morning America or one of those like TV shows was going to do a special on Aladdin, and they were going to record it or like film the show. And they were just looking for like people who would like sit in the audience, but they did not want to do it with like a normal audience that would have paid for the show, because they maybe would have to like ask the cast to like stop the show and like do a song again or like do a retake or something like that, and they did end up doing that like a couple of times. But who cares? Going to Broadway, like a regular Broadway ticket, is like around like $150. So, if you get the chance to see a show for free, you take it. So this show played at the New Amsterdam Theater, and if you're not familiar, this is also another show based on a Disney movie, the Disney movie called Aladdin, which is set in Agrabah, which is a fictional Arabian city, and it follows the story of Aladdin, who is a poor young guy who ends up like going into a cave and finding a lamp that has a genie, and the genie offers him 3 wishes, and he sort of like uses his wishes to try to woo Princess Jasmine. So yeah, this was a really, oh look, Hugh Jackman in The Music Man. That's actually the last playbill I have to show you. This show was wonderful. One of those like shows. It had wonderful costumes. It had great soundtrack. It had changes of scenery. Yeah, just an incredible show to watch. Oh my god, this was the genie, and he did such an amazing job. He was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Because, you know, I like the character of the genie. I mean, big shoes to fill, right? Because Robin Williams, he did such a good job voicing the genie on the original Disney movie, the cartoon movie. But yeah, the actor here also did a great job. He was very funny, and he had a big, like, sassy personality. Let's see if we can find music. So the music was by Alan Menken. Oh, I actually think, you know what? I actually think maybe he also did the music for the movie. And lyrics by Howard Ashman, Tim Rice. We read Tim Rice somewhere else, I believe in the Lion King one, and Chad Beguilin, and book by Chad Beguilin as well. And it was directed and choreographed by Casey Niccolo. That's interesting when they have, you know, the director also be the choreographer. Wow, that's a huge cast. It must be because they have all of, like, the whole ensemble pictures here, right? Because they usually have, like, the main cast, and then they have, like, the ensemble, which is, like, the rest of, like, the like, background actors. So this was the actor who played Aladdin, Clinton Greenspan. He was great. And then Jonathan Freeman, Major Attaway, who was the actor who played the genie, great actor. Ariel Jacobs, who played Jasmine. Brian Gonzalez, Mike Longo, Brad Winstock, Don Darrell Rivera, J.C. Montgomery, Siobhan Crawley, Dennis Stowe, and Deonta L. Warren. I do remember whoever played Iago, he was also pretty funny. Yeah, so this one was also a great, great show. Okay, friends, on to our very last playbill. Playbill number 10. Oops, sorry. I think I accidentally almost knocked you over. Okay. So, playbill number 10 is The Music Man. And this show played at the Winter Garden Theater. I'll be honest with you, I had never heard of The Music Man. But I was very excited to go watch it, to go see the show, because Hugh Jackman, the Hugh Jackman from, like, The Greatest Showman and X-Men, was playing the main role in the show. And I went to see this with my husband, I believe, maybe for one of my birthdays or one of our anniversaries. He got me tickets for it. And he absolutely did not disappoint. The show was not necessarily like super great. It had, like, a pretty, like, normal storyline, and it didn't have, like, many, like, changes of costume or scenery or no special effects or anything like that. But Hugh Jackman is great. I mean, he's just a wonderful actor and singer and dancer, and just, like, he knows how to put on a show. And the thing I remember the most about seeing him in the show was how joyful he looked, you know? Like, you could just tell he's one of those people who is doing what he loves to be doing. So yeah, it was super entertaining to watch. if you're unfamiliar, oh, did I say the name? Winter Garden Theater. If you're unfamiliar, the storyline centers around Professor Harold Hill, who is played, in the show by Hugh Jackman. And he is actually a con artist who travels from town to town trying to scam people into believing that he is a marching band director or something like that. And he makes each community it looks like this show, the role of Ethel was played by a different actress. And so, he convinces people in the town to give him money and raise money so that the young kids in the town could have a marching band, and makes them buy instruments and stuff like that. And originally his plan is to just run away with the money, but he ends up falling in love with the librarian, I believe, the librarian at the town. And so he decides to stay and actually, put on a marching band. So let's see. The book, music, and lyrics in this show are by Meredith Wilson, and it was directed by Jerry Sachs. And of course, the main character was Hugh Jackman. And then I believe, maybe, let's see, it was this. So I think Sutton Foster played the librarian, and she's also pretty famous. I think I recognize her from the show Younger with Hilary Duff. And so these are the other actors: Schuller, Jefferson, Janie, Marie, Remy, Gino, Emma, Benjamin, Kayla, Garrett, Linda, Jessica, Rema, Philip, Eddie, Daniel, Nicholas, Lance, and Max. And I think the show is supposed to be set in Iowa. But yeah, it was a pretty fun show to watch. I'm completely bummed that I did not get Hugh Jackman's autograph. I believe I waited after the show and it just never came out. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes, maybe for security reasons or, whatnot. Some actors just don't come out after the show to sign playbills, which is, completely okay. I will keep this inside the playbill as it was. Okay, friends. That was all of the 10 playbills I had for you today. I haven't even shown you half of my collection. As you can see, I still have plenty more playbills. So, if you like this video, maybe I will do a part 3 some other time. I hope you liked this video. I hope you found it entertaining. I will see you in my next video.